Hello everybody, and welcome back to the FDLServices Healing Channel. I'm your host, Todd Dobson. Thank you for tuning in. Today's subject are triggers. We will define what triggers are and what it means to be triggered. We will review the different types of triggers. We will share examples of triggers and being triggered. Let's jump in and begin. First, I like how Elia Cooks Campbell defines an emotional trigger in her Better Up blog entitled Trigger. Learn what emotional triggers are and how to deal with them. I'll leave a link below so that you can actually reach her article. She defines triggers as a trigger is a person, place, thing, or situation that elicits an intense or unexpected emotional response or causes an individual to relive a past trauma. They are any sensory stimulus can be a potential trigger. Triggers are unique from threats. Essentially, a non-threatening stimulus is triggering an automatic fight or flight response. Now, most people think being triggered and all triggers are bad things. A different perspective for you to consider. What if triggers are actually showing us, like signposts, a map that is you, where healing is required? If we want to heal ourselves, if we're on our own personal healing journey and we become triggered, that indicates where unhealed traumas and or negative programming exist. According to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Counseling and Psychological Services, a link will be left to their website. The types of triggers are as follows. We have external triggers, and these, think of senses, sounds, sights, smells, textures that elicit responses based on past experiences. Example, smelling the cologne that was worn by a loved one who has passed away can trigger grief. Now, an internal trigger, strong feelings that arise based on past experiences. An example of this is making a doctor's appointment after a negative medical experience can trigger fear. A trauma trigger, strong feelings that arise based on past trauma. An example is the sound of firecrackers can be trauma triggers for veterans of war. Symptom triggers. A physical change can trigger large mental health issues. An example, a lack of sleep could trigger symptoms of bipolar disorder. Now, at Ridgeview Hospital, an article they posted, How to Identify Emotional Triggers in 3 Steps. A link will be left below. All right, tells us that we can identify our triggers. When you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed by powerful emotions, take stock of what you're experiencing. Do you feel angry or sad or jealous? What about the physical signs? Is your heart pounding? Are you breathing quickly, etc.? This is very important because it identifies that you're being triggered for some reason. That trigger has an association of emotional patterns, and those emotions give a roadmap of why you're being triggered. That roadmap and that emotional pattern, we can follow the threads from it, we'll review that later, back to the root cause of whatever's triggering you. And a trigger is something that it is either a trauma or a negative program that has existed for a while. In other words, we either repressed it or suppressed it because we couldn't deal with it when it actually occurred. And we are being triggered now, or we're seeing the same emotional patterns triggering us when we feel the same way that we felt during that trauma or that negative program. Examples of being triggered. Have you ever watched a YouTube video of a woman nicknamed Karen who is going off on some poor soul? Her rage never matches the intensity of the situation. She's yelling profusely and getting louder and more aggressive. She moves quickly towards becoming physical. The videos are testaments to someone being triggered. Their triggering event does not match the emotions being displayed by Karen. And the only direction she seems to be going in is more aggressive, more intense, louder, more curse words, more verbally stern, into physical action. Now, another example is a shared experience that everyone has probably suffered from. You're driving to or from work and some rude and reckless person cuts you off in traffic. You have to slam on your brakes to not hit them. Now, you start yelling, you may flash a hand gesture or two, and you're going off because this person was so rude and reckless to you. You may even swerve around them or get around them and brake check them or take more evasive action. The point is that their rudeness triggered you. And you have a series of emotions like anger, all right, engulfed in rage. And this anger and rage, you may take this retribution and, all right, it won't matter what the triggering event was, because while the person was a jerk, it is how this event makes you feel. The emotions you feel as the event unfolds are a crucial part of trigger. The emotional pattern can be traced back to the root cause. That is why triggers are so important to us. We can follow the threads from the emotional patterns back to root cause that may be a trauma, may be a negative program, may be a combination of both. It may even be all of them, a trauma, negative program or two, or multiple, and or a negative belief system. The trigger is uncovering what is at root cause, what initially hurt us, and the emotions you're feeling right now are the same emotions that you felt during that original occurrence. Someone close to their mother loses her in an accident. This person can be triggered by seeing a picture of her, smelling her perfume, or being given a flower that she loved. They may trigger grief, deep sorrow, or even depression. Another example is a person that experienced a hugely traumatic event, let's say a rape, may be triggered by a noise that they heard during the event, the smell of body odor, or a cologne or a perfume that was worn by the rapist, a sound of a voice, or the look of a person's face or body parts. The emotions for something so painful may be anger, rage. It may also be guilt or shame. A person with such a triggering event may even revert back to the age the initial trauma occurred. So these are examples of triggers and being triggered. I'm sure you have your own, and I'm sure there are plenty that you can recall and or think about. For me, it's most important that you recall what the triggering event was, and you identify all of the emotions that you felt. And there may be many. There may be only a few. Identify that emotional pattern, because that emotional pattern, that's where the threads will lead us back to what's at the root. All right? Was this a trauma? Was this a negative program? Is it a combination of both? Has the original event happened so long ago that you are triggered often by it, and therefore it created a belief system? These are all things and subjects that we will discuss in greater details. For now, it's important that you understand what a trigger is and what being triggered is all about. Thank you for tuning in. Everyone have a great day.